What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down what's happening to the overall market right now and what you should be watching for as time goes on. Why tomorrow is going to be a very important day as we have the big bank earnings coming out, and what data is going to be coming out after the market opens to cause more volatility. But before I break anything down about all this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I am firstly not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100 into the account, you're guaranteed up to 5 free stocks. This offer ends in just about 3 days, so check it out before they run out. Anyways, let's break down what's going on with the market. So the market had a very, very nice drop as we opened before getting another rebound. And then after the market rebound, we got a clean rejection on the S&P 500 or SPY off this very, very key level. This happened to be a backtest of this channel that formed. Then we started to see a very, very technical sell-off that wasn't just technical as well. There was also like the yields playing a big role in it. So it was kind of like a mix of two things simultaneously, technicals and the bonds, as we started to see the auctions going up. And we started to see yields increase because of that, which led to this sell-off. So a bunch of different things came together leading to this. And as a result of this, the question now becomes, will the market continue to decline? And this is going to be determined by the earnings coming out, and other factors which I will discuss over the next couple of minutes. But I first want to shift your attention to this right here. So this chart right here is the midterm election year seasonality patterns, which tends to play out very, very well. This also works during election years and things like that. So what tends to happen during election years is we tend to see two declines, one by like September, and the market tends to bottom in October. And then we tend to see a very monstrous end of the year historically. So what could happen based off seasonality is there could be a decline coming to the market very soon. When October started, we actually started off a little bit weaker than how this typically starts. This is actually similar to what happened during like this year, but we tend to see a decline in October, and we actually saw a decline this time around. Then the market started to rally over the last week and a half. We saw lots of rallying. The market started pushing and pushing and pushing. And this does technically align with this quite well, as the market does tend to like push going into the middle of October. And then we tend to see another sell-off according to this seasonality towards the third week of October, maybe during the second half for just a large part of it, before getting one last push towards the very end of October for the monstrous rally to start going into November. So based off seasonality, we're approaching the time in which the market could start declining to either establish a higher low or make our final low of the year. One of those two is most likely going to be the case. In my opinion, it's likely going to be a higher low, but we'll see about that. And then the market could have more upside later on. So that's what that is suggesting. Then when it comes to tomorrow, I just wanted to call out a couple of things. We have big bank earnings coming out. Now, looking at some analysts, they're projecting a 2% decline in earnings relative to the previous quarter. If that's the case, we're going to find out how the rate hikes are affecting these earnings and whether or not this is going to lead to more changes to guidance going forward. So when it comes to earnings specifically, tomorrow we have JP Morgan Chase. We're expecting a 4.4% decline in growth. Estimates are basically showing earnings should be around a 3.89 EPS and also a $39 billion revenue. So we'll see if that ends up being the case for JP Morgan. Will we see a 4.4% decline or not? BlackRock is expected to see an 8.3% growth, and then Citi is also expected to see some more declines alongside PNC and Wells Fargo. So what does look a little bit odd to me, or maybe a little suspicious, would be the fact that many of these estimates are a little bit low. So what they could be doing is lowering these estimates, making them very, very low, so that it appears that earnings are not that horrible, not as bad as they could be. I mean, it's a possibility. We will see about that. We will see if that ends up being the case. For now, honestly, guys, just don't worry about that. Just focus on what these estimates are and whether or not we meet those estimates. This data is going to be coming out, I would say, before the market opens, at least like half an hour before open or so. And I will talk about this when we open. This is going to affect the market, so make sure you're prepared for this. This is going to be very big. Finally, after the market opens, 30 minutes after the market open, we have the Michigan Consumer Sentiment Report coming out. We have the Michigan 5-year inflationary expectations report, and all of this data from Michigan, which is going to be determining sentiment when it comes to inflationary data and things like that. So expect some high volatility on this. If we're expecting another increase in inflation, this could lead to another decline in the markets. Be prepared for some high volatility 30 minutes after the market opens. Finally, guys, I want to look at max pain on SPY, and you could be looking at a bunch of these, right? For Tesla, for Apple. I'm just going to focus on SPY for now because there are way too many tickers for me to be talking about. But I just want to make this simple. SPY's max pain is 430 for tomorrow with a 2.18 puts to call ratio. A lot of these puts are out of the money. My question is, will the shorts really let the market makers get the best of them, or are they going to try to fight and get some of those puts in the money? There's a chance they may try to fight tomorrow, so watch this very carefully. That's why the odds do favor some more possible downside. However, let's be careful before saying that because it's going to depend on the bank earnings. If the banks do super, super well, there's a chance the market could try to recover a little bit and then start to slow down a little bit and still hold up a lot better. If we get very bad earnings, we could see, SPY start sinking towards 430, if not below that, into the 420s. So watch that very carefully. What is the most likely possibility? So I went over kind of like the bullish and bearish cases. The most likely case, and this is what I'm kind of just trying to eye, would be a possible head and shoulders forming. This could be like a left shoulder. This could be a head that formed today. Could we get one last like increase? Maybe we kind of gap up during the pre-market, retest the 436s, and then this move just straight up fails. And the market just starts declining and declining and declining. We end up just getting this close towards max pain. So we could end up seeing a decline and see the market close towards 430 for a failed pop. And that could be another failed breakout, leading to another liquidity grab and another sell off towards the end of the day tomorrow. I believe the odds favor that, but just to be safe, we'll see what the bank earnings cause for confirmation. As far as Tesla goes, there's a possibility that there's a change in market structure on Tesla. We're going to be watching these key levels because Tesla technically got a bearish close. We technically closed below this channel, the trend line of support, this blue line right here, which has been holding us up quite nicely over the last couple of days. Now we closed below this, which could be a bearish signal. So for Tesla, it all depends on the bank earnings. Good earnings could push Tesla back into like the 262 to 265 area. Bad earnings tomorrow, really horrible ones, could cause Tesla to tank towards 255. If not, this imbalance towards 253. However, what's the most likely possibility, in my opinion, is generally when we break to the downside, we tend to see the market makers grab liquidity and other institutions. And what could happen is we get a little rebound. Maybe we try to gap up in the morning, we try to push up. Tesla retests this trend line right here. So we could see like this thing retest 260, maybe 262. And then we might get a rejection and we might see Tesla start to curl and drop all the way back down to these lows towards 257. If that fails us, we could see 255 and even lower levels towards 253. This is a key zone right here, this 253 area, because we have this imbalance. If we break below that, we could get very close to 250. So I just wanted to warn you about that. There's a possibility of a decline that could be forming on Tesla. Also, over the last few days, Tesla's been making lower highs and lower lows. The market structure is looking a bit more bearish. So we're going to be watching this very, very carefully. We could also draw out a trend line like this as our support, but Tesla could just continue to slow down as time goes on. This could also be forming like a large flag if you want to go that route. We will see about that. But anyways, guys, I'm not going to be too worried about this until tomorrow. We'll see how this affects Tesla. For now, Tesla could be forming this like flag, and it could continue to decline as time goes on tomorrow. So we'll be watching that very carefully. For the QQQ, the same thing is going on. It's looking a little weak today after that bearish candle. We got a break below our channel. So if we're bullish, you want to see it break 372. If we're bearish, you want to see it break below 368 and 366. My gut tells me we might see this thing pop a little bit, get a small pop towards the very low 370 area. So we're talking about this resistance right here. 371 is going to be a level to be watching for, and we may reject and start declining. We could see a decline on the QQQ. If 368 fails us, we could see 366 very soon. I just wanted to warn you about that. Could be a little pump and drop on the QQQ, so watch it very carefully. There could be a test of 366 soon if that level fails. For Nvidia, there could be a decline coming possibly, but we need to see Nvidia break some more zones to get more confirmation. Nvidia made an attempt to break above this resistance, but it ended up failing. This was a failed breakout, and it got rejected off this like 476 zone. So we're going to be watching this support right here at 465. If we lose that, there's going to be more potential for downside looking at this trend. So in my opinion, the odds do favor a test of 465. We could try to like retest, 471 or so, 470, then come right back down to 465 or so. And if that fails, Nvidia is going to come sneaking down towards 460, if not lower levels than that. I also want to remind everyone that Nvidia has this gap down here. So if 460 fails us, we're likely going to come all the way down to at least 458, and that's going to lead to even more downside. We also have this imbalance towards like 453. So there are many technicals looking a bit more bearish on Nvidia. There are signals suggesting downside is imminent as we have the gap below, and we have this potential change in the structure as this thing ended up breaking this low we made previously. So it could start to make lower highs and lower lows very soon. The odds do favor downside, so watch those levels very carefully. The one stock out there that's very important that's not really giving us confirmation of downside yet is Aapl. Aapl is still holding up quite decently. If you look at Aapl, it could start to make lower highs and lower lows, but we need to see this thing break below this channel. You could even argue that this is like a rising wedge that Apple has been on. Maybe it's like a very, very tight one. We'll see if this breaks right here at this 180 support. If 180 fails on Aapl, I expect it to come all the way down to 178. So watch 180 very carefully. Aapl also has resistance at 181.5 and then 182.25-ish around that area. We're going to be watching that all very, very carefully to see if Aapl could break. My guts tells me it may pop a little bit more and then end up just declining a little bit, retesting this 180 area. And maybe the banks will play a big role. We'll just have to wait and see. But I just want to warn you all that downside is a real possibility. So with that said, I just want to be very brief in this video, be very quick when it comes to how I go over the rest of these. For the IWM, it all depends on the banks, guys. I can't promise anything, but we have a very bearish looking, 4-hour time frame. If this thing retests 173, we could get rejection and start sinking towards 169 all over again, if not even below that. So watch that very carefully. On Microsoft stock, we're looking a little weaker. This thing is starting to form a bearish divergence. It could come down to 329. If that fails, let's watch this thing retrace to 325. So be very careful on Microsoft. For the VIX, this thing has been declining very hard for many, many days now, right? And now, when you look at the VIX, it is starting to hold the support right here at the 50 EMA. So we're going to be watching to see if the VIX could continue to bounce from here, if the VIX is going to fail. The VIX looks kind of indecisive right now. We want to see this thing hold above 17.38. If we hold above that, there is going to be potential for it to push higher. We will see if that ends up being the case for the VIX. There's a possible falling wedge on it, but I'll talk more about that later. For the dollar, we got our breakouts today. There's also the bullish divergence on it. So we will see if the dollar could break this resistance, which happens to be where the right shoulder was at 106.57, almost exactly where we are. So if the dollar breaks this high, this could cause more declines for the markets. If the 10-year keeps going towards 48, we have this gap up here on the 10-year. If we do break out, if 48 comes for the gap fill, that could be bearish for the markets. On Google, we made an attempt to break out. We failed, and now we're forming a potential flag. So watch 140 support. If that fails us, watch this thing decline towards 138. That's going to be very, very important. Last but not least, the last two I'm going to talk about are Amazon and Meta. Amazon has a bearish divergence, and we're starting to curl a little bit on the PPO, but we're still holding above the 200 EMA. If the 200 EMA breaks at 131.8, I could see Amazon coming down to this imbalance towards 130, which aligns with the 20 EMA. So 130.3 can be tested on Amazon if you break below 200. So watch that carefully going into tomorrow. Meta is once again looking a little weaker. We were talking about a potential decline off this 130 area if we got a rejection. And now we're going to be watching 321. If that breaks on Meta, I could see this thing coming all the way down towards 318 all over again. There's a good chance of that potentially happening where previous resistance becomes support. We have 320 and 318 if 321 breaks, and it's looking a bit more bearish now, so be very careful. All right, guys, so we will see what happens tomorrow with the earnings. I can't promise anything, but I will tell you that the charts are looking like there could be more downside coming. The odds do favor that. So just be prepared for that, and just know that we will have to see what the banks say for tomorrow. All right. With that said, thank you for listening. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys very soon for the next video tomorrow morning. Let's see how the banks do. Let's hope they don't do too bad, and we will see how this affects the markets. Thank you all so much. Have a great day. Have a good night, and peace out.